Well, thank you everyone for joining Transition Tuesdays. My name is Laura Knapp, and I am one of the parent consultants here at Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center. I'm the transition coordinator, and we have with us tonight Kristin Magazine to talk about transition programs. Hot topic, and I know we are excited to hear from you. So take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome tonight. I just want to say that I am so honored to be asked by CPAC to present tonight, not just on my amazing crew that I have at CES, but also just about some of the new information that's coming out in transition. And also for you to be made aware of different opportunities that are more available to you to gather some more of that information as well. So I'm excited to be here. So again, I just want to review what we will review today. And throughout the presentation today, you also will see some of the amazing work that my students are doing at CES. So I appreciate their families giving me permission to share all of their great work. Today, we're just going to talk about the program at CES, the transition program, what it entails, what the programming entails, a little bit about me, of course. Next, what we're going to cover is some of those hot topics. So a lot of those questions that you all have, and we'll cover those each. So again, my name is Kristin Magazine. This is my 5th year at CES in the Oakview Transition Program. My title is the component leader. I know that doesn't really mean much to people who aren't at CES. I don't really even know what that means. But what I do know is that I assist in running the program. We have about 55 students, and we'll get to that in a minute. I was the head of special education at Trumbull High School, as well as a teacher there for 10 years, and also at Norwalk High School. I have 2 kids who I do allude to a lot as I present, because I am sometimes a lost parent as well, with my 13-year-old daughter Liliana, and my sweet Tyler is 7, and my husband is also in education, and he actually teaches summer school with us at CES, so he definitely knows what's going on, which is wonderful. I run a personalization business at CES with support of some of my staff and, of course, my students. We do all sorts of amazing work with that. It's like my little baby. My current work entails a lot of state legislatively mandated work lately, which is all of the new up and coming trainings for transition. And I'll talk about those a little bit, but that's been a lot of time and effort this entire year on working all of that. And it's work that I'm really, really proud of. And I'm excited for families to be able to benefit from some of the information that's coming out as well. And then I also I presented nationally for Charting the Life Course in Kansas City. I'm also a Life Course ambassador and presenter. Next week, I'll be presenting at the Transition Symposium. And on Thursday, which I will talk about again in a little bit, is our CES Transition Resource Expo, which I also will be presenting. So I wear a lot of hats. And so that's just a little bit about the context of where I'm coming from. And here is a little bit about my program, which I love so much. I call it my happy place. We are fortunate enough to be in a brand new facility. This is our 3rd move in 3 years. So our kids who are exiting now have been through 3 moves. So we like to say that they're very adaptable. And they are. We have 10 current classrooms. We have room for 14. We certainly have the referrals to support 14 classrooms, but not the staffing. So we are constantly getting referrals for students, which is amazing. We monitor and manage over 30 community vocational training sites, which is, I know, crazy to think about, but we do it, and we're really proud of the relationships that we have made in the community. It's a huge part of our program, and I'll talk some more about that in a little bit. We also have a full service student run restaurant in our program, which is the best. And there's one full-time staff member in charge of it, and our students rotate down and work there weekly, which is great. We're expanding our transition department. We've been adding more and more staff which has been really great for us too, because I need the help. And transition is such a hot topic. We're getting so many questions and so many things coming down the pike that our department is expanding. We also, and this is a little foreshadow, we are one of the, we were, I volunteered us to be one of the pilot programs for the new public transition standards, which I will again give you the information about that in a little bit. But what that means is we're kind of being used as a standard of where the transition programs ideally could be, and what services they could be offering and the relationships that could be forming in the community. So I'm really proud of that as well. So it's a little glimpse into our student-run restaurant, which is amazing. And if you come and visit, we are happy to bring you there. Laura, you got to come during the day so that I can feed you.
I'll put it on my calendar.
Yeah, let's do it. So we offer a lot of different services for our students. It's very individualized for what they need, and our kids are on a huge spectrum of what their future outcomes might look like and the supports that they're going to receive. So we have students that are going to need lifelong supports to access the community for independent living. And then we have some students that are really going to be competitively employed as soon as they walk out of our door, which is really exciting. So that puts into context a little bit of the spectrum of work that we need to do. And the post-secondary training and opportunities that we need to provide. So again, we have volunteer sites and in-house opportunities such as our restaurant, but we also go out to the Pez factory. We have a vocational site there. We job develop based on student interest as well. So we're in a hardware store right now for one of our guys who really wants that. So again, a huge spectrum of those opportunities. In the community, we really like to, community service is a huge foundation of our curriculum, which I think is really important because our kids really love giving back. And I think that's a really missing aspect in a lot of pieces of programming. We're lucky enough to have the Wishing Place, the Make-A-Wish Connecticut headquarters is in Trumbull, right near us. And we've been partnering with them now for 4 years. We host our students plan, fundraise, and organize a walk every year for Make-A-Wish. Last year, we raised almost $3,000, which was amazing. And we host a big day, and all the classes are involved in participating in some way. So we do a lot of community-based work. We have a full laundry, we have a full kitchen. We do a lot of hands-on independent living skills. And then a core foundation of all of our curriculum is communication. Sometimes our students come to us and we're realizing that might just be the biggest thing they're lacking. And that's how communication leads to so many different skills for us. So we really focus in on that. We have some amazing speech pathologists that are on our staff that go out in the community with our students, that engage daily, working with everybody. So we are huge believers in that as well. And that's just a little taste of the programming. Again, I could talk about it all day. The other big piece of what we do is our family connection. I do have some of my families on the call today. I'm so happy. And I hope that they can attest to a lot of this information that we have helped them with. We believe in supporting the entire process. So as soon as a student steps foot into our door, we're already talking about them leaving, which is horrible, but it's the reality of the situation is that we need to prep early to look at these next 4 whatever years to talk about what our end goals are. So we talk about the entitlements. We support our families with SSI and all of the horribleness that may come with all of that, and your applications and things. We work tightly with outside providers, whether that's in-home supports, clinical teams. Another thing that makes us pretty unique is that we have created over the years our own transition assessment that we call the OTP assessment. And we use that consistently multiple times throughout the year to report for progress monitoring for our students as well. So, and we created that out of need because we needed something that we felt would be able to give us the information that we need, particularly for our students. We do a lot with person-centered planning. all of our transition meetings with our families, we talk about what they want to see for their students next in their next chapter. And we really focus on those parent preferences for communication. So again, those are some of my amazing guys in their element there. So enough about me, because again, I know how awesome we are, but I did want to highlight the program a little bit because I think what it does is it helps ground me in our work at the state level and our work with developing other helping to develop other programs and supporting them in the procedures that we're going to follow and some of the needs that people have. We know how fortunate our program is to have the resources allocated to it. It's also been in existence for a very long time. My administrator has been there for 32 years. So, these things don't happen overnight in terms of program development. This has taken a very long time, but it does help guide all of these future topics and information that we are currently working on. So in meeting with Laura a little bit before and just talking, we talk a lot, obviously, but about this, I really wanted to focus in on some common transition obstacles, which we're going to cover first, Laura. Thank you. So this is my, I hate being a downer. I'm definitely more of an action step kind of person. Like if I hear something isn't working right, we inform our families moving forward to try and support. So that's what I'm definitely here to do today. These are common obstacles that we have faced in the last few years to bring to your attention because you may not know, or if you do know, it's a nice reminder. I also want to say that regarding evaluations and eligibility and all of that, I just presented to the school psychologist community of practice last month, which had over 120 school psychologists from Connecticut on it, and gave them the same information. So I'm hoping that in partnership with the schools, this process will become much more seamless for families, and you'll have all the information that it is that you need. Evaluation wise, it's very important that through the transition process that these timelines are done in accordance with the applications and what they want. We have so many what we call COVID kids right now who are in transition years who may have missed those important years of when those evaluations should have taken place. So it's important to look back, keep those things on file, make sure you're advocating. Thank you. Make sure you're advocating for the appropriate evaluations at those times during the triennials. Check in with the staff, check in with your DDS transition advisors if you use them to make sure that you have everything that you need. This year, in almost 20 years in education, I have my first student coming off of the autism waiver waitlist, which is huge for me. I have not had during the school year that I've had a student had them come off the autism waiver until this year. And that student was put on the autism waiver when he was 8 years old, and he's now 22. And his number has come up, as they like to say. So we are very thankful, but I cannot stress enough that if you or someone you know has younger children, to please advocate for them to it may be very challenging at 8 years old to have this conversation, and I totally respect that as well. But the long-term support that is available to students with autism that come off of this waiver is unmatched. So I like to plug it, and I like to lead with a positive story. So hopefully moving forward, things will change. It might become a little bit easier of a process.
Hopefully.
I don't know. Hopefully it will. In the children's division as well, it's a fairly new subset of DDS, which is amazing. But in terms of transition for the children's division in DDS, if your student or your child is DDS eligible, what it does is it creates a continuum of case management care. So there are no gaps in being able to wait for a case manager to be signed to have a budget in order to look at programs or to to decide what's coming next. That's the nice thing again about applying for DDS early, is that that will last through transition age. I have many. So let me give you a quick example. I have a student right now who is 22. He's exiting in June. He has a significant level of need. He requires a one-to-one adult support upon exiting. And we have a program that is willing and has come to see him. He has gone there. We have done the parents have done so much amazing work. And we simply were sitting and waiting for a case manager to get assigned so that we can move forward, and waiting and waiting. And the mom had to climb all the way up the trail to get to the right person to try and get him assigned. So again, let's remove some barriers if we can. And the same goes with eligibility, making sure you're looking at that, still applying, even if you're maybe on a fine line, making sure the right boxes are checked, and just discussing with your staff, the staff that you work with, about this process as early as possible. So I'll get off my high horse. The transition advisors are technically in their own entity. There are a lot more of them for DDS now, which is amazing. We used to have one that we worked with, and now I have 6 that I work with, which is amazing. And technically they work like under the help desk. But they can start attending PPTs, in high school, which is really a great idea. Okay. Thank you, Laura. Next. So I have been working this entire school year on presenting we're trying to tick away at a legislatively mandated state coordinator transition training. And many of the questions that I get, and in speaking with Laura, many of the questions that she gets are, how do I know if my child is eligible for transition services? How do I make sure that they are? Districts want to know, well, what's the checklist, to make a kid eligible for transition? And unfortunately, there isn't one. But this is the guidance. Well, maybe fortunately, right? Because it should be a process. That's a PPT discussion anyway. But anyway, school districts want something they could just check off. That would be much easier. This is where the state will guide you when the districts or you as a parent are trying to determine whether transition services and supports are an option. This is exactly what they'll turn you to. Thank you, Laura. So I know this is it's so dense, and I am not going to cover every piece of it. What I did was summarize it for you, and I also italicized some really key points that I think are important for you to keep in mind as you're entering those PPTs at transition age of your student, of what the districts are getting as their guidance when discussing this. So the first and foremost, most important thing is that it's a determination that is made by the PPT. So the PPT team has to determine whether or not a student is eligible. So that means PPT team. It doesn't mean one individual. That doesn't mean it's projected for them in 6th grade. It means the team is deciding. The next piece that's really important, and I think that this is the gray area, right? And everyone has their own individual story, and districts all are very different in what they provide, and I totally understand that. But it is noted in this document that transition services will reasonably enable them to meet their post-secondary outcome goals. And that turns to why the IEP is so important, and why that development of those post-secondary goals makes such an impact on what that programming will look like moving forward. So reasonably enable them to meet their post-secondary outcome goals. And I can think of a lot of examples that were unreasonable as the department chair that I was asked. I was asked at one point to if I would fund a one-to-one para for weight training because of a student needed to hold a tuba in the band. So, when we talk about reasonable, that's just it's one of those examples that never leaves your brain as an educator. Um, it's just one of those examples. It's reasonably enable them to meet those goals. You can go to the next, Laura. Another important thing for you to remember as a parent is that these services should be discussed, not in the 11th hour. So the first PPT when a student reaches 14, but no later than the PPT meeting that happens 2 years before their exit. So the sooner you start, although I know some days I feel like I barely have my head on straight and I can't even think about my daughter going to college because it's so scary. But now would be the time where I would start talking about these things for her. And I know it's probably really hard for some of you, and I am with you. But I think I know what skills she needs to work on to achieve her goals. And that's what I need to focus on. It's not the what and where she will be, but it's what does she need to work on in order to get there. And for her, there's a lot of them. So I have no problem talking about that. We'll talk about Lily in a little bit. The other important piece to this, and I am also a huge believer in utilizing our local community and their resources to support our students. You would be floored at the amount of support that we have in the Trumbull area for our students in our community. And many of our students, unfortunately, have to come from so many different areas that their programming isn't in their local community. But, in managing over 30 sites, we have been able to create those relationships. And sometimes being in your local community is really the best option. That's where you can pool the most resources, where you can make the most connections, utilize what you have as a parent to make those connections happen. So that's another thing that's in here to look at. So again, if you really want to go line by line, you absolutely can. So this is the Transition Bill of Rights. And it is provided to you at PPTs. It's really funny to me after chairing so many PPTs in my career to actually read these documents now that I really need them. And I'm like, oh my God, it's been here the whole time. So as a parent, they always say, oh, you have your procedural safeguards. And it's like the information's actually here. It's here. And if it's not, I can guarantee you it's probably being edited by one of our groups at the state level. So, because we do a lot of work with that. So please utilize those resources that are just rattled off to you during PPTs. And this is one of them. And I'm going to give you the next one, which is another one that's brand new, which I love. Holy moly, the work that went into this, I can't even imagine. This is another resource that's given to you at your PPTs prior to transition. And this is easing into secondary transition. What is so amazing about this now is that it's not a paper document, it is a live website. So you can go on to Connecticut Easing into Secondary Transition. And although I know it looks really tiny, you can see, if you're looking for a particular type of resource, what agency or RESC or whatever may offer that service that you're looking for. So let me give you an example. Say you are concerned your student is eligible for Social Security during their transition period and they're thinking about working, and you're a little worried about their work impacting and their pay impacting their benefits. So it sounds like you need some benefits counseling and some ability to help them understand, the amount that they can work without impacting all their benefits. So I would look for that, and that's provided by BRS, and that's that check mark there. And you can click on the hyperlinks of all the agencies to see them, and there's a huge list of all of the resources they offer. So please utilize that. It is amazing. And again, another thing that I realized how helpful it was when I finally needed it. So next, there's my student who works in the hardware store. He's amazing. We also have we also offer dance and movement therapy We have Jenny, our dance and movement therapist, who's so amazing. And we love it because it makes us very unique and it's amazing some of the things that you see. Okay. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to include this particular topic in this presentation for parents is because I think it's really important for you to understand what is happening in transition programs and how they're being overseen, right? So maybe not necessarily my CES parents that are on the call, because we are part of the pilot program to implement these standards. So we're clearly doing what, we're covered. And Margot and I actually helped to develop them as well, which was really an honor. What's happening now is that there are new state transition program standards that are going to be overseen, and all public transition programs are going to have site visits and be rated on these standards. And those ratings on their meeting of those standards is going to be published. So it's a little controversial, I guess you could say. I don't know. I'm not worried about it, but people who haven't seen it yet are worried. Transition programs that maybe are up and coming, that know that they need more resources and support, are nervous about those standards being publicized, whether or not they're meeting them. Rightfully so, right? When that becomes public information, it's nerve-wracking. But I think as a parent, what you will have at your disposal, and I'll show you in a second how to get there, is a list as you're looking at transition programs or you're thinking about transition programs of where they are in those standards, and also what they may need to be working on. So these site visits are going to happen every 6 years to each public transition program. The results will be published, I believe, on EdSight. There's discussion about what that will look like, but that's definitely a problem for the transition programs, not for parents. And the areas that they're going to be evaluating are all areas that are key to transition programming and why CES does what we do. So the first one is student-focused planning. Is the student at the center of all of the work that is happening around them? Are there ways in which we're engaging families? I could probably tell you that the parents on this call are probably tired of hearing from us. But how is family input being brought into the conversation? How are we outreaching and supporting families? What is the structure of our program? Are they in a community setting? Are they in the high school in a different area? Different structures and how their students are being supported there. How are we developing our own students? So what are we doing in our work that supports their goals? And how are we collaborating with each other and different agencies? So are we bringing in the level up counselor to do work sessions with our students? Are the transition advisors invited from DDS, invited to our PBTs? All of those different things are going to be looked at through the people from the state who are doing the evaluation spend the entire day at the transition program that they're evaluating, all day. Ours went out, we made them busy. We made our evaluators go to the Beardsley Zoo. They went to the grocery store. We showed them everything under the sun. We also fed them at the restaurant. How could you not? So I think there's a lot of questions coming out from transition programs about this process because it is an unknown. It's something new. But what I tell everybody is that in some respect, everybody's doing all of these things. You wouldn't be in existence if you couldn't do these things. It's just, are you meeting each individual piece of what it is that they're looking for? So again, as a parent who might be new into transition, I do have some of my more senior parents here who are towards the end of the other end of transition. You will have all that information at your disposal, which is really exciting for you. So to look for those transition programs and to see what those ratings eventually will be, again, they are nowhere near ready. The ratings are nowhere near ready. We're still in pilot. I heard that they're coming back out to see me for an entire day again. So they're still revisiting their pilot schools again. So we still have some time. However, it's coming down the pike. If you're just looking for general information about transition programs or any school-based anything, EdSight is the place to go. Again, not something that I tapped into as much until I got into this role. But as a parent, you could do really amazing research on this site. You can see demographics, you can see number of students service, you can see what kind of support staff they have there, who the transition representatives are for those programs in those school districts. Um, it's just a really great site for you to be able to look at. No, there is not this beautiful state monitored publication for adult day programs. Of course not. That would be too nice for us, but they do have it for transition programs, and it's monitored by the State Department of Ed. I wanted to add this as well. I don't know how many of you have had the absolute privilege of being in a family session with Missy Wrigley, who was like, I want to be Missy when I grow up. I think we all say that because everybody remembers the sessions that they go to with Missy, because I think the message that she gives to families is so powerful, and that collaboration is key. We need each other. The school needs us as parents, and we need our kids' schools, right? So the I had a very, very hard swallow of this last year with my own daughter. My daughter has clinically diagnosed with OCD, but has had a lot of issues growing up. She's amazing, very bright, could, unfortunately for me, getting her to do her work is challenging because she could probably do it with her eyes closed. So I have, whatever. The motivation is an issue. So I had an issue with the school where something happened within the school building that was very dangerous for Lily. And it was after I had already come up with a safety plan for Lily. It was the same day I came up with a safety plan for Lily. Something very dangerous happened. And so, as some of my families who already know me, you probably would think that I was coming in like guns blazing. I didn't. I had the most amazing advice I had was take a deep breath, wait 2 days, and then make the phone call. To calm myself down. Also, my husband probably would have killed me if I did that. But anyway, he balances me out very well. But I was just able to think more clearly. I was able to gather my thoughts. I was able to understand that what happened had a lot to do with Liliana's illness and not necessarily have to do with the lack of supervision of the school. But I also felt like I had to address that as well. So I needed the school still. I couldn't just come in with my arms up and, throw things, although that's what I felt like I wanted to do. And I know a lot of people, Laura would have been on my first phone call. No, she wouldn't have. I'm just kidding. But I didn't. And I was able to have a realistic conversation with them, express my concerns. We came up with a really great 504 plan, and everything has been very smooth since then. So I like talking about this because I think sometimes we get on the defensive when we really just need to work together, hear each other, and move forward. But that's enough of that. That's my own personal philosophy and a little bit about my situation. To support that engagement with each other, starting early, coming to a meeting and saying, this is what I don't want to see, and this is what I do want to see for my child. Having those conversations about what a good life looks like. And I use that language all the time. Yes, it's life course, lingo and whatever, but I use it all the time because it is so powerful. What is a good life? We're not saying perfect, we're not saying great, but if we start having that conversation early, we can work backwards. And that, as a professional, is so helpful to know where you're at and what you want. And most of my family say, I don't want them isolated. I don't want my student to be sitting anywhere, and doing nothing and staring at the walls. I want them to be busy and giving back and using their skills that they've learned. There's ways that we can get there, but having that conversation earlier rather than later is really important. The other piece that I find is unbelievably powerful is using your own student's voice in this process to the greatest extent possible. All of our students present at their PBTs. And if they don't present themselves, the teachers support making a presentation and present it. Some of our students write letters that they read themselves. We try and encourage it greatly. Be a participant in the PPT. I know you're like, you get all this stuff thrown at you and, you got to thumb through it and, you don't live and breathe IEPs like, unfortunately, I have to. But, reaching out and asking questions, as educators, we love that. I want to know that you're reading what I'm writing and that you care. And I want to know that what you feel like we're doing can be carried over at home. That's huge. Keeping everything. This is a big one. I'm having this issue with a family right now because we can't find a evaluation that happened when they were 14 and the student is 21 and the district doesn't have it and it's nowhere. So keep everything you possibly can, at least until they exit out. Maintain the ongoing collaboration, reaching out and checking in, attending things at your child's school, being a part of different meetings, talking with other parents. So many of our parents want to talk to each other, which I know is challenging. Do your own research. I gave you some great resources to be able to look at your own disposal, whether that's entitlements, benefits, services, programs, different resources that you have right at your fingertips. And again, my families, they know that they can call me. I hope that you all have an identified point person that you can have support you as well. And then staying focused on the goal. Sometimes, we get a little sideways because we talk about how often we become in crisis mode with a lot of our families, where we're not looking at 10 steps ahead. We're just looking at like a half a step forward. And I totally get that. I've been there. I've felt that many times with Lily. I couldn't even look at the next day, never mind the next year, but continuing to try and get back there and reset a little bit and look at what you want for your child moving forward if you kind of get lost a little bit. So my last piece is a little shameless plug. Sorry, Laura, but I have to promote all of the awesome things that we do because we do spend so much time offering these things. Thursday this week is our 25th annual Transition Resource Expo at CES. So this is our 25th year. That's crazy. Like I always tell Margot, she invented transition, but that's just because she's old. But and she's been there forever. But we're so excited. We have a parent panel this year, which I am so excited about. Our parents who have had kids that have already transitioned, coming back and talking to any family can come too. You can be from any area and still find resources and support at this expo. Let me tell you, it's wild. We have over 30 vendors that come. We have our huge focus lately is more on rec and leisure opportunities and community engagement than it is on those like adult service agencies, because we have found so much value in that community connection personally in our work. We have an adaptive surfing program that comes and presents. We have the Wolfgang from Fairfield that has the dog bone business that they operate. I mean, I can go on and on. And then of course we have CPAC attending and a lot of the state agencies as well as adult service agencies and info sessions. So again, 25th year, it's a very well-oiled machine. We welcome all. The next is the symposium is next Wednesday at Central Connecticut University. They have a parent track of trainings and breakout sessions. And I actually had the pleasure of presenting at one of those last year on person-centered planning. And it's just very unique because where can you go as a parent for an entire day sessions that are dedicated to you about transition? So it's really, really cool. We will be there, of course. And I'm presenting more on the educator track this year, but it's an amazing day. So I highly recommend that. And then lastly, the Connecticut Transition Community of Practice meets quarterly. And that's open again to anyone, not just educators. It's also open to parents, and we'd love to have more student and parent representation for sure. And though the next two sessions are virtual, one's on employment and one's on independent living. So we work collectively as focus groups on these, and we bring in all different our resources to talk about those particular topics. And again, that is available to families to attend as well. So like I said earlier, gather the information. The more information you have, the better decisions that you can make. I'm definitely more of that, like, I want to know everything that's in front of me kind of person. I know not everybody's like that, but when it comes to transition, the best thing you can do is to start early and have a lot of resources in your pocket. So those are just a few. And lastly, that's just my contact info. My family certainly know how to get a hold of me, but I am more than happy. If you have specific questions, I'm also very close to all of the regional transition technical assistant contacts. And, we all are kind of like one big crew. And so if you are in a different region and not in mine, and you have particular transition questions, I am happy to answer them and also field them. We do a lot of work to try and make sure that we are giving all of the most accurate and relevant information as possible to not only to schools, but also to families. So I hope that all of this was really helpful. And again, thank you so much for having me. I told Laura and Renee I could talk about transition all day. And it was really hard for me to shorten it, but I think I did. And I talked slow. I tried.
You did. I didn't have to spin up brackets. So thank you so much. I mean, there's so much to transition. And as you know, I'm sure you've heard parents, it's like falling off the cliff and where do I begin? And it's overwhelming. So here's your chance to ask any questions. So you can unmute and ask questions. While you were going over questions, I'm going to put a survey link into the chat. And if you can fill that out, we do appreciate it. One of the questions I get is, what is transition services only? Because it's not clear as what the transition program is versus high school.
So transition services only is a student has completed their academic requirements have been fulfilled. So the academic components of the IEP are completed. So what happens is when a student reaches transition age, only the transition piece of the IEP is completed. Every single goal and objective is all in transition. The reading should be related to transition if that's something that they need. Math, functional math, should be related to employment or independent living. So it's kind of nice as a transition program we get to really hone in on those functional skills that relate to the transition areas and only focus on that rather than on all of the other components of the IEP. So we still address them just in functional ways that are related to their transition goals. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Perfect.
Kristin, may I ask you a question that I often get also?
Sure.
Families are often interested in, do they get to choose the transition program that they want their child to go to?
Well, that's a fabulous question. First of all, it's a PPT decision. So ultimately, I would say that the parent does not get to choose. And I'm glad you asked that because we get phone calls from parents all the time. And ultimately, we work for school districts. So we have to collaborate with school districts in order for students to come to us. They have to be referred to us by a school district. We are not a private entity. We are a public school. So the only way that a student can come to my particular program is if they're referred by their school district. So if the PPT determines that the in-district transition program might not be appropriate, that's typically when we will get referrals from the school districts. But if the school districts feel as though least restrictive community, right, that's all in the Transition Bill of Rights, that your program is located within your community, and it's the least restricted if they are in their home district, then the school district does have the right to recommend that they attend a district-based transition program. The parents, of course, can advocate for the ability to look and look, and visit and tour. But again, I work for school districts. So
Awesome. Thank you.
you're welcome. I hope that answers your question. It's very dicey. Now, we do get parent phone calls, though. We don't just hang up the phone. We will explain and that's, why I spent so much time talking about that spirit of collaboration, because if you do have that feeling as though the in-district transition program is not appropriate, also some districts still don't have transition programs. But if you feel as though it's not appropriate, starting that conversation early and making it known that that is what you are looking at, you are looking for something more, full service or whatever it is that you're looking for. In the 11th hour, we're probably also full. So that's why it's so important to have that conversation early. It takes us a very long time to decide whether or not we're going to accept a student. We have to make sure that our referral team reviews the packet. We have communicated with the district. We've done tours and visits. So it's not something that can just be decided in one meeting. It's quite a process.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And as you alluded to, there's staff shortages. So some programs, there's wait lists. And it is a conversation, and it's based on need. So know what the need is and be creative. How can you meet that need? So sometimes it's the district program, but bringing in maybe a community provider or some other resource to come in and build that program up, or out of district. It all depends.
And I think what's great for families right now is that this is such a huge point of focus for school districts right now, because there is so much new legislation coming out about the oversight of transition programs, that a lot of districts are really honing in and focusing on their scope of services, and making sure that they're touching on all of these areas, which is amazing. Ultimately, there are students that do require a much more supportive environment like mine, with a smaller ratio and all of that. But again, these are students that we've had on our radar for a very long time. So that's a fabulous question. And now we're talking about the other end of transition. So that's a hard part of transition programming, is we're always doing two very big transitions. So what I recommend to my families is the earlier you start, the more that you know. I think as a parent, if they turn you down to come in for a tour because it's too early, that might be a sign that they might not be willing to collaborate. But I know, I don't know if one of my parents is on here. She last summer, and her son is graduating in June. She toured 5 places. So almost a year before, she really started to look and just at least narrow it down. You may have to go back, especially with your student staff, because we really like going on those site visits with our families, because we ask questions that they may not think of. But narrowing it down, you're going to know. I tell my families all the time that it's like buying a house. You walk in to some of these programs and whether or not it's for you and for your child. So doing that early is as best as I can recommend. Where do I get the most referrals from? I get them from everywhere. So there's a rule that kids can't go more than an hour. I don't recommend kids going at least 45 minutes, but I have students, I'm in Trumbull. I have 2 kids that come from New Milford. That's our furthest, and they are almost an hour, just because their needs are so unique. And when you're in those more rural areas, it's harder to find really good programming as well. So, but we will we'll look at, talk to your school districts and we'll look at referrals. Yes, we get a lot of referrals from Bridgeport. We have lots of Bridgeport students.
There is a question in the chat about they just received some paperwork for person-centered planning. Is there someone that they can talk to about that? In Clinton area. So it would be Learn would be the RESC.
Yes, Learn would be the RESC for Clinton. If they received it from school, then I would definitely ask them why. Don't be afraid. And if we are firm believers in that person-centered planning should be conversations and not necessarily just a paper to go home for the sake of being that way. So if I were to receive that as a mom, I would say, I really want to talk about this with someone rather than writing this on this piece of paper. It might be more effective. So that's my recommendation for you. But if you do have person-centered planning related questions, then I absolutely would reach out to the Learn transition contact, is that Tim, Laura? Yeah.
Yes, that's Tim.
Mm-hmm.
It was